crowdfunding, and it's the third in a trilogy of games. This is going to be Call of Kilforth. So Call of Kilforth here has some really cool things going on with it. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the Kilforth world of games, it's an adventure game where you're going to be going from card to card, and these cards represent locations. And at these locations, you're going to be performing tests and trying to complete your own personal goal while also trying to defeat a giant villain. So it's very modular in this setup, but you're really picking and choosing your characters at the start and just kind of seeing how this story plays out. So the gameplay is pretty straightforward. On your turn, you're going to have hearts, and based on how much hearts you have, that's how many action points you're going to get. And so the more health you have overall, fantastic. The more hearts you're going to actually be able to use and do stuff with. So you'll have a different race that's going to give you some super ability, and you'll be drawing encounter cards based on the locations that you go to. So I think it's whenever you visit one gets pulled out. You can also spend an action to get one. So you get to pretty much populate the board as you see fit. So each of these locations is not only going to have that, but also have some special abilities. But really the thing that you're looking for are these specific tags. So each of the characters has these quest lines that they're going to be going on. These are called sagas, and each saga has a to complete line. And so you're going to find whatever you need to by sifting through specific decks of cards. There's a nice reference that comes with the game that'll help you figure out where those different keywords are. But really, you're just kind of walking around trying to figure these things out. Now, while that's happening, there's going to be this giant ancient that is populating the board that's going to be doing something terrible. And your ultimate goal is to defeat this ancient. And they also have their kind of own conditions. And so when you complete your saga, you'll be able to take on these ancients, and it'll lead to a big climactic battle. In addition, every encounter you take is also going to have the ability to give you different allies, different items, and these are things you're using to build up to either maximize your action efficiency or to be able to defeat the boss and get some cool abilities for combat and stuff. So the big thing here is that you have a time limit because the entire land is in shadow. And so you're going to be using these skill cards in order to maximize that time period, because every night one of those cards will be revealed and it'll be an encounter or something bad that happens. So think about this game. It's a puzzle of efficiency and then ultimately building up to a gigantic climactic fight. So this gameplay currently looks exactly the same as all the original Kilforth games. So if you're familiar with the system, this is going to be just another addition if you like it. The pledge also comes with new miniatures that you can get for the game, but there are a couple standouts here that I want to talk about in particular that come with this one. Let's see. There's specific content, and it's in this tiny little box at the end here, but it really does set it apart. So here it is. What is Kilforth? Oh, we talked about that already. Kilforth compatible. Aha! This is the new one. So crafted with love. So this little box right here is probably all that you're going to need to know if you already have Kilforth and say, okay, maybe you weren't a fan of that one, or maybe you really like Kilforth and so you're already backing this. But if you maybe had some problems with it, this might address some of those issues. So the first thing that it adds are new custom dice. So right off the bat, that's pretty cool because now you'll have additional symbols or things like that. Dice-free options. So if you weren't a fan of the resolution system in the base game, generally when you resolve the test, you roll and you succeed on 5s and 6s. And so very straightforward, but you could just get a string of bad luck. So having deterministic outcomes is pretty fantastic as well. There's an ocean encounters deck, so a whole new type of encounters. There are new resource tokens that you can gather from the board, which is nice, kind of like the treasure tokens. You have outposts that you can build, so actual locations that you can come back to, which is kind of sweet. You can also get ships that are going to help you sail around, new keywords, and the ancients functions differently. And I think that this is pretty important because in the base game, you pretty much just had to build up your strength in order to defeat an ancient. Having them work differently is going to bring some cool new planning to the game, and I really appreciate that. Up next, you also have the world begins in gloom, which I think is really cool because a lot of times if you're in this gloomy area, you'll take extra damage or bad things will happen. So I'm just curious to see what they do with that. And then there's an explore mode where you're actually flipping over new cards as you play. So I like that. And also the box is supposed to have a really nice design insert. So if you want to give it a try, it's on Tabletopia. You can give it a try. But I think that this game is fun, and I like the ideas of that they're implementing. I think that these are great things. Switching to that deterministic combat and just resolution of tests sounds extremely nice. And if you have not played, I would recommend this one for an adventure-style game, especially with this promise of new ways to play and to manage maybe your expectations as to what you're looking for. And the other options you can grab here, you can get some minis, you can get new Matt's new, they call it Pimp My Kilforth. So it's this deluxe components that you can get for the game, and also new promo packs. So you can also get all the base game stuff from here as well. Now, my favorite way that I've played Kilforth so far is actually Shadows of Kilforth. They add new factions like that you can start with at the very beginning, and I think that's really nice. And that gives you this cool kind of like mini quest line, and it increases the potency of some cards and decreases the potency of others, which I think is neat. So you have this cool affiliation, and I think that's a lot of fun. So that's Call of Kilforth. It's a cool game. I'll go ahead and show you my ratings, and we'll kind of go over the other ones. But this is my opinions on just Gloom of Kilforth in general and the system. I think it's fine. It's not my favorite information. It's not my favorite adventure game. The roll to resolve, the succeeding on 5s and 6s can be a little damaging sometimes, because it's either you fail or you don't. And a lot of the times you're trying to accumulate successes. One cool thing, though, about the test system is if you start at the beginning of your turn to do one of these larger tests, you can save your results from test to test. And I think that's pretty sweet. So you don't have to get them all at once. And there's a lot of mitigation of the cards. So this game can feel a little punishing the first couple times you play and during the early levels, because your action points are determined on your health. So fighting creatures can be pretty rough, especially if you take 2 damage, which seems like nothing. But when you only have 3 hit points, you've taken 2 damage. Now every turn you only get 1 action because that's your current health. Oh man, it could be rough. In addition, the setup is pretty big. You've got this large map that you're going to be creating each time. So I like that idea of the exploration deck, how you're not actually having to put anything out. But I think that the game is fun. It's a great little adventure game. The storytelling is not direct. It's going to be emergent as you are playing. And I think that's pretty sweet. And as I said earlier, I think that the titles of the cards are pretty sweet. I love that you're looking for specific keywords. So you're going to be interacting with different decks of cards each time you play. And all this promise of the new variants and kind of exploring this game in different ways, that's exciting to me. So this is one that I'm actually kind of on the fence about, because a 7 is an okay rating to me. It's not one that I generally play a lot. I don't think I have actually played Call of Kilforth or Gloom of Kilforth this year, which is kind of sad because there's just been a bunch of games. So I'm curious, like, if I actually get this expansion, will I play it? Do I need the miniatures? Do I need more copies of this game? Because a lot of it is going to be the same. But I think that those changes are maybe enough to push me over the edge. I'll have to think about it a little bit more. But for right now, I am backing, because I do think those changes are pretty critical, because they do fix some of the issues that I had with the game, with the issues of the big bosses all feeling the same, and the different dice being a pretty detrimental thing early game if you're doing poorly on those rolls. So I like that deterministic style. It's the reason I really like card play in games with combat. So excited. I think that it sounds like a blast. So I'm really excited to try Call of Kilforth and get it played. What do you think of the game? Is this one that you're interested in backing? I'd love to hear what you think. Now let's go ahead and move on to the games that we've been playing that have arrived from Kickstarter. First one I want to talk about, and this one I'll probably be a little brief on, just because I don't really want to share any spoilers, but I'll give you an insight on the system. But this is Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice. Now this game is super, super cool. It's super fun and it's super well done. This has you taking a part of the Assassin's, I guess, the branch that's in Venice right now. And it's your job to mold history by completing these missions. And each time you complete a mission, you'll get an opening of a cool little box. It's kind of like Christmas every time you play. It's super fun. I love how straightforward the missions are. I love how easy it is to set up the map. And I love the different characters in the game. So the game has you putting out on this large board. And these boards are made up of these square tiles. And you're going to be moving from tile to tile, looking around at all of the different options that are at your disposal. And the big thing this comes in the form of are these miniatures that represent the different locations. So you have towers that you can climb, and you can get used those as vantage points to check out the area. You have these escape route towers, and you also have these guarded miniatures. And these guarded miniatures are hiding spots. You can actually jump into them so you can avoid detection. And I think that's a lot of fun. So you're moving around, trying to use the terrain the best of your ability. The ladders are also very important, because some of the guards can only walk on the ladders. And the more you play, the more interesting the guards become, and you'll be introduced to new types of characters. And I think that's really fascinating. So you'll be planning your attacks, your routes as you move through this map, and that's just a lot of fun. In addition, as you move through this map, you're also going to have a assassin that you play as, and these assassins all come with a variety of things. So first off, they're going to come off with a new ability that's going to give you some effect that sets you apart as you level up during the game. That ability is going to get better and better. You're also going to have skills on the left side here, and these skills you get to pick from 4 of them, I believe, and they're going to follow you from the campaign. A lot of them are once per memory, but that feels really good when you use them because you are encouraged to use them at critical moments. So it could be things like summoning a character that everybody follows. It could be things like jumping, getting a free leaping attack or something from a tower. And I love this. It encourages you to follow specific strategies, but also gives you the flexibility to, choose your path based on the ones that you're choosing in your upgrade path. I really like that. And you'll also have all sorts of items. You have your main weapon that you're going to be using to fight. You have a dagger that you can use while you are in incognito mode, means you haven't been detected. And then you'll have a ranged weapon that you could use to attack things on adjacent squares. So really like this. And then you have a slot of 5 backpack cards that you can use interchangeably kind of whenever. Like you've got a cape that helps you avoid detection. And then you'll get lots of these one-time use cards every time you search bodies after killing them. And those are my favorite part about this game, actually, are the different items that you're going to pick up as you play, because the game encourages you to use them because you draw so many. You can spend an action on your turn, one of your action cubes up there. You'll have 3 per turn. You could spend that to pick up all the items and all the bodies in your space. And for each body, you get an item. So it's really cool. You're constantly diving through that deck, and cleaning up bodies is actually good because it helps you avoid detection, letting them know that you're not here. I really like this system, and it's just a lot of fun to play. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is the Kickstarter as a whole and kind of what is available in this experience. And I think that there's so much to love here, and I think they did a really good job about this with their production and the care that they put into it. So the project here, first off, it comes with just a bunch of envelopes, and each of these envelopes represents a memory. When you start a memory, you crack open the envelope. It's going to have all of this stuff that's going to say, hey, this is your mission card. This is add these to the equipment deck, to the item deck, and these are the new rules for these new characters. And I love the way it's set up. It's given to you spoon fed, so you're consistently learning new game mechanics, but it's something that's consumable, and you can say, okay, I really like this. This is something that I can pace myself and learn. The rule book is really well laid out. I just think that it's really, really well done. Up next, you just have all sorts of minis because you're going to be consistently putting out these guards. Everybody, it's kind of insane. So you'll have so many crossbowmen that you won't know what to do with until you finally get to a mission where you make so much noise and you end up summoning all 40, which is crazy because one of the win conditions for the enemies is if all of the miniatures are summoned. So I never thought that would happen, but it definitely can if you're just stealthing around and not worrying about taking things out. The presentation is fantastic. Everything works. I'm not sure if I'm a big fan of the collector's box. We're going to be doing a organizing video for it. I think that I'm going to go the way of Zombicide, where I take all of the cards of specific types and kind of put them in pools and kind of little sectioned off boxes. And that way you can just pull them out because you're only going to be using like 2 groups of miniatures for like the large groups at a time, and then a boss here and there. So I may keep the bosses in their boxes. Haven't decided yet. The towers are super extra. They actually obscure your view, but they're also super thematic and super fun. I love that your miniatures can actually climb them and hang out there. It is so fun. And then the other cool things you have here are just the massive amounts of stretch goals. There's so many like mystery boxes, and I really like that. And then the expansions are also super fascinating. So one of the expansions here, the Creeds versus Crows. Well, first let's talk about Tokyo one. This one here just adds a new special campaign that you're going to attach. So it's an additional piece. So this is kind of just extending the campaign. You also have what's called the Creeds versus Crows expansion. And this one is really interesting. It takes the idea of Assassin's Creed and it puts it in a competitive format. So you can have one player using the crow boards and the other player using the tower boards. And so it can be up to 4 players. And then lastly, you have the expansion here, which is all about Roma. And this is essentially a new character pack. So you can add these new assassins and you can play with them. And you also have some missions that tie specifically into them. So I think that's really neat. You have all of these extra modules. And the last thing that I want to talk about this game, and that I didn't really talk about yet, is the stealth aspect. And I think that's a huge important selling point of this game. And I think it really does retain the feel of the Assassin's Creed universe. Whenever you enter a space with an enemy, you roll a detection test based on the amount of pieces there. And then if you get one of these eyeballs, you're found. However, as soon as you are found, the alarm is sounded. And that is going to affect all of your future dice rolls, as well as how many people are being spawned. And I think that's fantastic. So once that is up, every time that you reveal a spawn card, you're going to spawn more characters. There's 2 columns that you pick from. And then the other thing that it affects are the red dice in general. Every time you see the bell icon, that is now going to expose you instead of just the eyeball icon. So I really like that. It's kind of that moment of, okay, this is it. This is where we are going to make the alarm. And as soon as you do that, that is going to trigger the huge amounts of reinforcements and just chaos that can ensue. So I really like this game. I think that it's really well done, and I'm excited to keep on playing more. So hopefully going to have a organizing video of that out soon. I have it packed right now, ready to go. I just finished up a bunch of campaign stuff. So going to hopefully dive into that soon. So be on the lookout for that on the channel. Are you enjoying Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice? Is this one that you're excited to try? Are you a fan of the Assassin's Creed video games? I'd love to hear what you think. If you have any comments on there, let me know down below. Now, the last game that I want to talk about is a game that I'm also just really, really enjoying. This is Final Girl. This is from Van Ryder Games, the same studio that brought us Hostage Negotiator. And this game is fantastic, honestly. I put out a review on it, giving my pretty honest thoughts on the whole system, and it's one that I really do enjoy. If you want to get a further in-depth review on it, please go check out this video. But I just wanted to talk about here the different packs. So this game has a really cool system in it where they introduce what are called feature films. And they're just these packs of cards that all relate to a specific horror movie. And I think that's awesome. I think the best way to go over them is actually just taking a look at the Kickstarter, because they have them all laid out pretty nicely here. So let's take a look at this campaign and just go through the different boxes. So each of the boxes follows that horror film, and this first one is just the Happy Trails horror. This one is going to be a summer camp with a deadly killer. So you have Hans here, which is pretty terrifying. This is honestly, though, the most basic of all the boxes. It is thematic, but it is extremely basic. You have a killer that walks around, tries to kill you. Go figure. And that's really the extent of Hans here. He's pretty brutal, he's pretty beefy, he's pretty strong, but he doesn't really have any extreme crazy flair. So no interesting different mechanisms. His rule sheets simply say, hey, this box has no additional rules, which I think is kind of funny because it's just basically blank on the whole side. So I think that's pretty hilarious. And the other thing you have is the camp. The camp is interesting. I actually think that one's pretty fun. You have a water area, so you have things like a motorboat that you can ride around in, and then you also have it's a camp, so you have things like slumber parties going on. You have all of the things that you might expect in this. So I really like how, even though that this setting is so straightforward, it still remains to be extremely thematic, and I think that's awesome. So that's kind of a line that you'll see throughout all of these, which I think is fantastic. So killer and location, extremely simple, extremely straightforward, but this is a fun one. It's a great way to learn the game because there's no extra rules overheads, but it is still one you'll probably go back to just because of how straightforward and fun it is. So that's that first one. Up next, we have the Poltergeist. This is from the Haunting of Creech Manor, and this one is right off the bat going to be extremely different. So the Poltergeist doesn't have a health track, and so when you actually fight the Poltergeist, you are, I believe, you're just attempting to push it out of the way or damage it. I forget exactly what happens when you damage it, but the biggest thing here is you're trying to rescue victims while trying to search for a specific item. And I think that's cool because it's going to put you more into the searching mood and also that rescuing mood. However, the Poltergeist is strong and fast, so very scary because it is able to move around so quickly. And I think that's super, super fun. You have some new characters here. One is more combat centric. The other one is very good at searching. So Selena is kind of a perfect fit for this mission. She has her item, like special item, is a flashlight, so that helps you search even more. And so I really like this box. It can feel a little like you're kind of pushed into a specific setting because you do need to kind of just pick up that search card over and over again and keep on using it, looking for that doll. But that's kind of what this one's going for, is a different take on the Final Girl system. But the idea that you have this unkillable thing, I think is really cool. So it's a little bit opposite of what the other boxes are going for. So it's a Poltergeist. Up next, we have the Carnage at the Carnival. This one's crazy. The Puppet Master. He has minions. So minions, normally in this game, you are just fighting a specific boss, and you're just doing your best to kill that boss. But Geppetto here adds minions to the game, which move around, and they're kind of attached to him. They have 2 strings that are attached, and so they can be up to 2 spaces away, which is cool because you can kind of know the range of the minions. But it's pretty scary because the combat cards in this game are pretty pretty sparse. So if you don't have a lot of them, you feel really bad when you're attacking the minions. But that I think that's kind of the point of the game. So it's better to run away, yeah. So that way you're saving your attacks for the big boss. Inversely, though, the boss is just a guy. He's Geppetto. He's pretty frail, which is awesome because he's not going to take a million hits to kill like someone like Hans. And I think that's really neat. There's a lot of cool interplay with the different puppet mechanisms. I love how the characters are moving around, and I think it's just a lot of fun. This is a really good one. And the map is really cool because you'd say Carnival. So you have all of these Carnival games. It actually reminds me of the Joker map from Batman Gotham City Chronicles, where a lot of the spaces can be traps or push your luck things where you're like, oh man, I wonder what this is. And I think that's really fun. A lot of the locations where you're searching for items are also tied to traps. So inside those decks of cards, you could accidentally hit something that may damage your character. So I think that's really fun. Carnival of Blood is also really, really good. I think this box is fantastic, actually. It's a very different take, different feel, but extremely thematic. Oh man, this is a good one. So far, all these boxes have been good. Out of all of these, I think that we've talked about so far, I think Geppetto is really, really good. I really like Hans's Camp Happy Trails one. That one's really good. I think I put Poltergeist last just because I like having to worry and trying to get up close to that boss and try to defeat that boss. It feels good to slay the monster instead of just mitigating your losses. This box, oh my gosh, Slaughter in the Groves. This one is rough, yo. This is probably the hardest box, especially if you play them together. These guys are insane. Holy cow. So first off, you have Inkanyamba, who is so powerful. His whole thing is that he is fast, but he only deals little bits of damage at a time. And when you're fighting against the victims, you only need about 1 damage at a time. He's going to be running around the board, slaying your different characters, and that's terrifying. So you have a character that you're going to need to chase and follow with sprint cards, and then you're going to need to get some good items that you can actually slay this guy. So Inkanyamba is super powerful. And then the other one here is Sacred Groves, which has these ritual sites. And both of these cards are actually going to come with, they don't actually show them here, but there's these large tarot cards that come with both of these sets. And the way they work is every time some specific condition happens, they're going to increase on these tracks that are on these tarot cards. And each time that happens, Inkanyamba is going to get stronger and going to have stronger abilities that trigger every round. And then the Sacred Grove here is also going to get stronger and stronger. So you have these 2 new tracks that you're managing if you play with them both at the same time. And to manage this, they have a new type of card. I don't think they even added here either. So they completely gloss over this fact. Interesting. But it's a new action card that gets added to your hand. When you play it, you go down on one of the tracks. And based on how many successes you have, that's how many times you go down. And this new card actually has 3 success spots. So if you get a full 3 successes, you reduce the track completely. But these tracks are pretty terrifying. So the effects range from anywhere like, it's like move the boss twice, kill 2 things, move again, kill a thing. That's like the top of the track. Or the bottom can be simply something like lose a time, which is fine. It's not a super big nuisance. But the fact that if you play both of these at the same time, Slaughter in the Grove, if you play in Kanyamba and the Sacred Groves, both of those tracks will be happening at the same time. So you are pretty prone to having one of them pretty much go wildly out of it because they're both managed by the same action card. So this is such a difficult one. If you want to challenge, try this box, and you don't have to play them together. That's the beauty of this game. You can take Kanyamba and put them at the camp or something like that, or take one of the other killers and put them at these sacred grounds. But they are challenging. This one is, I think, the hardest out of all the boxes. But that being said, these characters, Barbara is a savage. Holy cow. It's funny, my mom's name is Barbara, so I sent her a picture after my fight with using that character, and she got a kick out of it. But the characters in this are fantastic. I think this box is really, really good. I think this is the one that one of the boxes you should get because the difficulty is there, but you can choose how high that difficulty is by choosing which cards and which characters you combine. So I think that this is an awesome welcome challenge to the game and gives you this very terrifying feel. This is probably the scariest one because it is so difficult and just because of the way it works. Inkanyamba runs and chases, and then the Sacred Groves are actually haunted with having to manage those tracks. So really like this one, but very, very challenging, not for the faint of heart. And the last thing that's added was the miniatures box. You can get a set of miniatures. One more thing, though, we've got this little box. It's a free little expansion if you back to the game, but this is Terror from Above. And the way it works is it's Oh, what is it? So it's the murder of crows. So you have all of these little crowsmen, these crow tokens, and so there's no big boss board. You just have these crows that are going to be moving around in these large groups. And so when you attack, you're just attacking a flock of crows. And it's kind of weird. It's very different, but I like that. And you can throw that into any of the areas, and I think that's super awesome. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is the Nightmare on Maple Lane, and I don't see a cover for it, but this is the Nightmare on Elm Street box. And the way it works is, oh, it's not even on here. But Nightmare on Elm Street is probably my favorite expansion, I think, because it puts you in this little neighborhood. I'll see if I can find one. But it puts you in this little neighborhood, and you have to actually knock on the doors. Oh, let me see what it's called. So it's called Nightmare on Frightmare on Maple Lane. All right, let me look it up really quick. So it puts you in a neighborhood, and you actually have to knock on people's doors to go into their houses, which is such a fun thematic twist. I love that. So you're going to be knocking on doors, and then once you're in the houses, you can search, but it's just so funny the way it interacts. And this is Nightmare on Elm Street, so you have Freddy Krueger style guy. I think it's Dr. Fright is what it's called, but he is going to be luring you to sleep. And every time you fall asleep, you'll have to draw from this dream deck at the end of every round and hope that you're not attacked. And I think that's really, really fun. You've got this interesting mechanism where you have this card deck, and you'll be sliding in its specific directions to determine what's actually going to happen to you. And I think that's fun because you have this little push your luck puzzle of, oh my gosh, how can I mitigate this luck? You also have these cool ways that you can force yourself to go to sleep, which I think is really cool because that way you can go and actually choose when to fight this character. It's a lot of fun. I really like the way this layout works. The game has a lot of things to do with coordinates for like the northeast, southwest exits when it comes to the event deck and the tarot cards. And Dr. Fright's just mechanism of only being able to attack while he's asleep is pretty fun. He also has some very thematic terror cards and horror cards that can flip that maybe Dr. Fright comes into the real world, or oh, it's just so good. I think that this is just thematic and fun, and it's one of my favorite ones. It's also very straightforward. It does have a good challenge, but retains that feel of the original Final Girl boxes. It's a great one. So I really, really like the Dr. Fright expansion. So that's everything. Those are all the games that I wanted to cover here. What do you think about the ones that we discussed here today? Are there any games that I missed that have been recently delivered or that are currently on Kickstarter? I'd love to hear what you think about this. And I'll go ahead and leave the chat open for a little bit if you'd have any questions or anything like that. And feel free to ask any opinions. I'm going to get some water really quick, though. Some upcoming games that we've seen recently and like hey, this is about to be delivered to you. Right now, the Ascension Tactics is being shipped right now, which is awesome. So hopefully we'll get that soon. I've also got some emails recently from Townsfolk Tussle, which is super exciting. That's probably one of my most anticipated games. It's a boss battling system that just looks like a lot of fun. So super excited to give that one a try. Townsfolk Tussle's art style is beautiful. The boss battling system looks awesome, but it looks like it's got the pacing of Too Many Bones, where it's just you play once and you just have a good time with that one mission you're playing, having successive boss fights. And that sounds awesome. So super excited to try that one. But Ascension Tactics also looks really fun. I hope that it's a better version of Ignites. I've heard some negative things about Ignite, and so pretty happy that we didn't get that one. I know it's a Colorado-based design, but I have a friend that has a copy, so maybe I will get to try that one soon. Let's see, anything else that's exciting that's coming in? Not that I can think of. A non-gaming related Kickstarter, we actually got some paddle boards in the other day, which is pretty fantastic. However, one of them was broken, which is super frustrating. So we sent them emails. Hopefully they can replace that. Anything else Kickstarter-wise? Nothing else Kickstarter-wise. Game-wise, we have the new, I guess all of these are games, but other than Kickstarter games, we also have the new expansion for Res Arcana coming in. So Perle and Piri, that looks awesome. I love having resources that are worth points because it just feels even more tense when you decide to spend them. So excited to try that. Let's see, anything else that's on the agenda? Lots of sleeves. Oh my gosh, we just got a new shipment of Dollar Tree organizers. So we have this whole rack of organizers sitting over there. It's just crazy. So that's exciting as well, because hopefully when new stuff comes in, we'll be ready for them. But that's really all that we're super excited for. I think that's coming, that we know that's coming at least. So always excited for surprises. I know Vagrant Song is supposed to be shipping soon. hopefully. And then we also have hopefully Three Sisters, the new game, the roll and write game from the team that brought you Fleet, the dice game. So excited to see what they do there. Yep, so I'll leave the stream up for about another 30 seconds, and otherwise we'll wrap it up then. But if you have any more questions, please let me know down in the comments. All right, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up this morning. But thank you so much for being here this morning, and thank you for watching. I hope that some of you found this useful, whether it was going through the different missions for Final Girl or just general thoughts of Call of Kilforth or Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice. But thank you so much for watching Side Game Strong.